Regardless of how much we'd love to be returning to a normal school year or a more normal work environment, COVID-19 has other plans. The Delta variant of the novel coronavirus has driven new case counts to their highest level in months, right here in New Mexico as well. The more contagious strain is relatively easy for even vaccinated people to spread, and it's forced employers and school districts to rethink their plans. And Tom, schools across the state are now following CDC guidelines and requiring masks for students and staff. And as we've talked about before on the show, I've asked a question. I'll ask you. Kids are going to be back in school, and that was the main cry of frustration from so many last year. Should masks really be that big of an issue now? I mean, a lot of kids have got this down. They just know what to do.
Well, I think that masks are an issue because COVID is still an issue.
Gotcha.
And, CDC guidelines are really going to be, what drives the narrative, not just here in New Mexico, but throughout the country. And, but the mask issue is really just the side story. The main story or the main feature event is going to be once the COVID vaccine is approved and part of the FDA, regimen, will it be the 11th vaccine that's required in order to attend public schools? And if so, how are the school districts going to enforce all 11 vaccinations? And is PED, Public Education Department, going to be just as diligent to remove school boards if they don't follow the vaccination protocols as identified by the Department of Health? This is the mask issue is simply, it's a very important issue. And, Albuquerque Public Schools, Santa Fe Public Schools, Las Cruces Public Schools, 3 of the 4 largest school districts in New Mexico have gone above and beyond the Public Education Department requirements. And so I think that's a good thing because they're just kind of staying away from that line of controversy. And they're just saying, we're going to embrace this full force. But again, I think that's just the side issue. The main event is still ahead.
Yep, good point there. Laura, interestingly, you've seen it on the news, vaccine requirements are on the rise. Federal employees, state employees, students, staff at UNM and employees at NMSU as well, all have to be vaccinated or submit to more aggressive testing. And Laura, those employers have wondered if they have the power to do this. Interesting legal question. Now that the virus is back with a vengeance, those worries seem to have been set aside. Haven't they? Or have they? Which side do you see it on?
Well, I think there's probably some that believe that there's still a legal argument to be made there. But, when there's a public health emergency, a lot of, just as when there's a, national emergency of another kind, when we had terrorism concerns and our civil liberties were being eroded, a public emergency is a public health emergency is a whole different animal. And there's very clear statutory authority about actions that the governor and the government in general can take in order to protect lives, in order to keep people safe. And I think that, what we're talking about is in particular the PED and their rules and regulations. I worked at a law firm that represented a lot of different school districts around the state. And we had to warn them. You had to tell these school board members sometimes, you need to remember that, yes, you're in an elected position, but you're not in a whole separate country. Like you're not your own little fiefdom. You still have to follow the rules and the laws and the guidelines, the regulations that the Public Education Department lays out. And if you don't, PED could take you over. And I think that's what we're seeing happening now with Floyd. It's a very small school district, but also, these kinds of concerns are rampant throughout the southeastern part of the state. But they're not isolated to that area. We've seen protests in Santa Fe as well.
That's right.
Along the line. So I think we're going to continue to see more people really unhappy.
Interesting point that the Santa Fe protests materialized out of nowhere, just very quickly. Eric, interesting in the employer-employee realm of things. I'm interested in your thoughts about, the alternative to vaccination is, as I mentioned, the frequent testing. And it's almost as if folks are saying, you know what, we're going to drive you crazy enough to get vaccinated. Or we're literally going to force you into it by this being a pain in your literally arm. Is this the way to go? Is it going to be effective? I mean, how do you see this with this, how the employer-employee thing is trying to work to motivate folks?
Well, I wish folks would just sort of buy into the science. There's been so much misinformation, such lack of leadership, from lots of folks that, people that it's created this mistrust in the science, mistrust in the institutions like the CDC. So now we're trying to push back on this sort of, this mindset among a lot of folks that they just don't trust, the basic, we're talking about institutions, the basic institutions that are supposed to sort of and the science that's supposed to be governing. And as Laura said, this is not about politics. This is about public health, right? And I think that's a different animal. So if that's the only tool that employers have, maybe that'll be enough. I wish that it wouldn't come to that you wouldn't have to really make people uncomfortable and have to submit to sort of all sorts of additional testing. I wish it was just out of this shared sense of community and it's the right thing to do. But we're not there. And there's a lot, we can all debate why that is. Is it social media? Is it partisan politics, polarization, whatever you think the explanation is, Donald Trump. But the fact remains that we have a real problem. And the counties, ironically, Tom mentioned the press release from Rebecca Dow in the governor's race about local control. And you heard that from a lot of Republican legislators. Well, you know what? We don't have the luxury of having local control over public health issues. We can't decide that employees don't have to wash their hands because we want local control. We can't decide to sort of throw caution to the wind because we don't like something, we want local control. That's not the way our democracy works. It simply doesn't work that way. You have to do what's best. We are a community, we're a democracy, and we have to do what's right for the common good. And in this case, it's protecting public health. It's protecting kids. And the last thing I'll say, Gina, is the new data is showing that more kids are getting subjected to and most of them are doing fine, but there are a few who are having serious long-term consequences. And I hope folks who are just so adamant against wearing masks or adamant against getting these vaccinations will think about those under 12 kids who are going to be really disproportionately affected as we go forward in terms of new cases.
Good points there.
No,
go ahead, Laura.
Gene, we're also on the verge of the approval, the official approval from FDA of the Pfizer vaccine. So, I just heard this morning, as of the time of this taping on Thursday, that was really expected any day now. So I'm wondering if that's going to change things. I'm hoping it will, that people who had the argument about how this was not an approved vaccine will now change their tune. They really need to get on board, because this is there's no point in playing with your life like this.
Glad you got that in there. I have a lot of friends on Facebook who hung everything on this FDA thing. Like everything is on this. Hey, Tom, Eric brought up Republicans a second ago, and I got to ask you, they were, swift to criticize the governor. And hopeful challenger for the GOP, Jay Block, says he's going to sue the governor on behalf of state employees. I don't know about the legal standing for him there. Laura may have a thought on that. But the election is more than a year away. Does this issue have legs?
Yes. I mean, every issue right now has legs. I mean,
Good point.
In essence, you have an outgoing public education secretary who I think is on the job for another 2 weeks, who has now suspended members of 2 different school boards. So, that will definitely get traction, at least in those 2 areas, in Los Lunas and then again in Floyd. I mean, this is the type of stuff that, political strategists love, because they figure, well, what's that base going to be? But, more importantly, I think it comes down to 2 things as far as this particular issue, lives and business. From lives, that's one thing that the governor's office has been really successful at doing, is showing how their actions have helped to prevent additional loss of life, and how it's been a benefit for New Mexico residents. On the other side, the Republicans are going to take a look at how it's impacted small business and economic livelihoods. So, this issue with the Floyd Public Schools will definitely get a lot of attention. But it'll be thrown into the mix and used by both sides, respectively.
I'd have to agree with that. Laura, just a couple more minutes here, or a little less than that. Can we consider vaccinations in the same light we're talking about here? Will getting a COVID vaccine or booster shot really be a big deal next year? Is the opposition to them lasting? And I ask this in this context. There is data out there that shows there are folks increasing the take rate for vaccinations in the southeastern part of the country, places where they're really getting hammered. The message is starting to punch through for some folks, and they're getting vaccinations. Can we get there in New Mexico as well with the way we're doing it now?
Well, I think New Mexico, in some ways, like we're so isolated. A lot of times, the reality, we don't have the urban areas where it's such, in the Southeast in particular. Yes, there were cases, but a lot of people felt like it wasn't really hitting them in the same way. And unfortunately, in order for people to really jump on board, they're going to need to know people who died, know people who were affected and were impacted. And I'm sure many of us know, I know several people who died as a result of COVID. So I do think that it's going to take a little while, but I have to hope that by next year this time, more people will have gotten on board, that it becomes routine. But also, though, I mean, it's fair to point out as well, there's plenty of anti-vaxxers out there about all the other vaccines as well. I mean, I think Robert Kennedy Jr. is one of the anti-vaxxers. So as long as there's people out there who have fear about vaccinations in general, we're still going to see some of this. I think what's troubling with this, with where we are now with it, is it's such a politicized thing.
Right.
It's not even about the science or the health. It's like it's a Trump thing. It's a conservative thing, which is ironic because Trump and his family were one of the first ones to get the vaccine.
And he developed it, and he rushed the vaccine through. Like he took credit for getting the vaccine out the door.
Right.
So if
That's right.
you know, that's about. Yeah.
How can this be a political thing?
That's
It's really
right. We'll have to stop the conversation here for time. Up next, we have an interview with Congresswoman Teresa Leger Fernandez. Then this group is back to talk about staffing trouble at a key legislative committee.